Grade 12s, is chapter 1 getting you down? There's all these acts. Let's dive into Labor Relations Act, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is. So let's look at the Labor Relations Act. All right, so just a little summary. This is an enabling framework. So we're looking at the government to the employee, and here in between, we've got discussions with employers and trade unions. So the Labor Relations Act regulates the relationship between employees, employers, and trade unions. Then you ask, but ma'am, why did you put government there? Okay, government is there because it is the government who created and is instilling this act that we need to comply with as a business. So it promotes social justice, labor peace, and democracy within the workplace. The act does not just dictate, it creates a legal space for negotiations as well as dispute resolution. Nice little exam alert down below. In an exam for question 5, right, for the introduction, you must state that the Labor Relations Act regulates relationships and promotes social justice, and that can be worth 2 marks, nice to use for your introduction. So what is the purpose of this act? All right, let's dive in. I put this in a mind map form so you can try and compartmentalize it within all these different areas. So we need to promote collective bargaining. So the purpose is for collective bargaining, promoting negotiation at a workplace and sectorial level. Fair practice, so promote fair labor practices between employers and employees. Workplace forums, so to promote employees participating in decision making. Dispute resolution establishes the CCMA and labor courts. The right to strikes and lockouts. Employees have a right to strike, and employers have also a right to do lockouts. And then international standards, this gives effect to obligations, part of the ILO, which is the International Labour Organization. Then an exam tip. For this act in an exam, they will use, for the purpose, they will use the words outline, describe, or explain the purpose, and those can be types of questions. Key institutions and definitions. So here we have the ones that we've just discussed briefly. So we have CCMA, which stands for Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. What does that mean? It's an independent body that resolves disputes through conciliation and arbitration. So if you cannot resolve something within the workplace, you have a dispute with one of your colleagues or co-workers, even one of your managers, you can take it to the CCMA. And then if it doesn't get resolved at that level through conciliation, mediation, and arbitration, it can then go to the labor courts. Then bargaining councils, sector-level organizations formed by unions and employer groups to negotiate disputes and wages. When we look at the labor court, well, this is the court that adjudicates matters relating to labor disputes that cannot be resolved at CCMA. So you have to go to CCMA first and then move on to the labor court if you cannot resolve that dispute. So collective bargaining. This is the process of engaging and solving labor disputes collectively between trade unions and then the employer organizations. Lockouts, well, this is a type of strike where the employer prevents employees from coming into the workplace, so they physically lock the doors and they lock them out. So it's an action to prevent employees from entering the premise during a dispute, the employer's equivalent of a strike. So why would they lock employees out? Well, if they're damaging property and they feel they're going to harm the other employees. Remember, not everyone in the workplace always strikes all the time and everyone wants to strike together. So the ones that are striking may want to intimidate those that are coming into the workplace. So it's safer to lock the doors, to lock the striking employees out, to safeguard your premises, your equipment, and your staff members that don't want to strike. Rights in the workplace, the balance of power. So employer rights and employee rights. Now, this is a nice one for them to ask, differentiate between employer rights and employee rights in a table, or just be careful, you could be asked either or. So just make sure that you look at those words properly and don't confuse employer versus employee rights. So the employer, they're the employer organization, right? So the business. They form bargaining councils for collective bargaining. Their right is to lock out employees who engage in unprotected and illegal strikes. They can dismiss employees for misconduct, which is fairly done. I'm putting that there just so you note that they can dismiss. And there are a few examples of immediate dismissals. Examples of this are theft, and also if you are intoxicated or you come into work drunk, those are immediate dismissal cases, which are fairly done, and you are allowed to do that as an employer. And then not pay employees during the protected strike, so no work means no pay. They have the right to do that. Then employees' rights, they have a right to join a trade union of their choice, embark in legal strikes as a remedy for grievances, refer unresolved disputes to the CCMA or Labour Court, request the trade union representative during disciplinary hearings, and establish workplace forums if they have more than 100 employees. I just want to go back to talk about that representative. So every trade union needs to have a representative at that business. All right, so I remember when I was teaching, there's obviously different trade unions, and there was a representative for each trade union that the teachers were part of at that school that I was at. So if you have an issue, you go to that trade union representative. You can also, like I said, request that they actually sit in on the meetings, and that's what that's talking about with the disciplinary hearings. But the representative has to be working for that company. Then the impact. Remember, again, with all the acts, there's a positive and a negative impact. All right, so when they ask you what is the impact, you can give either the positives or either the negatives. They sometimes, in very unique circumstances, ask you to give specifically the positives or specifically the negatives, but I don't see that very often. So they're going to ask either or. What is important is that when they ask for the impact, if you put like this one is the heading positive, and you list the positives, but you mix them up and you accidentally write negatives under the heading positive, all of that is incorrect. But if you don't write a heading at all and it says explain the impact on businesses, and you just list them, then the marker has to look at the positives and negatives and mark accordingly. So if you put a heading, you are then bound by that heading, and you have to make sure that they are positives listed under that heading or negatives listed under that heading. So my advice would be just write them as bullets for that question. So the positives, stability, what does it do? It promotes healthy relationships between employers and employees. Now, these words, stability, protection, are just my words to try and sum up what that bullet is saying. You cannot be writing stability as the answer. You will get it incorrect. I'm putting this as a disclaimer in my videos just so that you know. It's just a nice keyword to study, because when we think promoting healthy relationships, we can look at stability. But please don't write the word singly. Protection, this protects the rights of the business in labor relations issues, so like legal lockouts. Efficiency, labor disputes are settled quicker and are less expensive than going to the CCMA. Clarity, it provides specific guidelines for correct and fair disciplinary and dismissal procedures. Compensation, employers can claim compensation via labor court for damages from unprotected strikes. And then at the bottom, the so what is fair procedures mean fewer disputes to operations. Now we're looking at the negatives, and these can be seen as hurdles. Productivity, reduce global competitiveness due to union activities or strikes during working hours. Remember, strikes are legal, but it can make a business or the economy and the country as a whole, it can put them in a negative light according to the global competitiveness for the country. Labor costs increase due to legal strikes and potential loss of production. So even though we're not paying their salaries for working the days that they were striking, we still lose when it comes to production because we're losing days that our products are not being produced and that we won't get back. Administration, dispute resolution, and bargaining council's process can be very time-consuming and bureaucratic. We need to make sure every time we have a meeting discussing a dispute or a grievance, we need to document that. We need to document what was discussed and was this resolved, was it not resolved? And that can be quite a heavy burden, and you can think about the time that it takes to go through all of these issues. Information. Employers may have to disclose sensitive information to union representatives, risking competitive advantage. Rigidity. Employers cannot dismiss employees at will. Strict procedures must be followed. So when we're talking about dismissing employees, I'm not referring to the cases I mentioned before about theft and drunkenness. Here I'm actually talking about following the correct procedures when it comes to dismissal. So if an employee constantly comes late to work, you can give them a verbal warning first, followed by 2 written warnings. Remember, it's for the same offense. So late coming, verbal warning, they do it again, written warning, and written warning. And only after that can you then look at dismissing the employee. But some companies might just want to dismiss them after the second time, after the verbal warning. That's where the CCMA comes into play. So we need to bear in mind these strict rules and regulations. And as much as, yes, it's important, it can be seen as negative on the side of the business. So then non-compliance, breaking the rules. So we have unfair dismissal, like we've discussed. So if you're not compliant, you are dismissing employees unfairly and illegally. Union blocking, so you're preventing them from joining trade unions. So I just want to note here, did you see the right of employees? The right of an employee was to join a trade union. So how do we not comply? We prevent them from joining. So do you see how those work hand in hand? Strike prevention, because they have a right to strike. We prevent them from participating in, importantly, legal strikes, not just any strike, legal strikes. Breach of contract is breaching collective agreements or resolution mechanisms. Workplace forums, refusing to establish these workplace forums. And then cancellation, so we're canceling contracts just because a business is sold to a new employer. There has to be a whole discussion and agreement. You cannot just dismiss employees if you have sold the business off to somebody else. Then the price. So what are the penalties? The price of non-compliance. Well, there's a financial cost. There's significant fines, legal fees, and CCMA fees if you are not complying with this act. Compliance orders. The labor court can issue orders forcing the business to comply to the act. Operational stop. So labor inspectors can order for operations to stop if illegal practices are found within the business. And then license revocation. So they can revoke your license in extreme cases if you're not complying with this act. Then paying back pay or damages to unfairly treated employees. So you need to have compensation for that. So if you've unfairly dismissed an employee and they haven't been working for you for 3 months and you unfairly dismiss them, well, you're going to have to do back pay for them. So I think it's very important to look at this and say, is it worth it? No, it's not worth it with all the legal costs, and never mind the reputation and the media that's going to follow your business and your business image. So it's important just to be aware of these penalties and ways to comply, which you're going to deal with next, and to comply with these acts. How do we comply? So the ways that we can comply. Well, allow association. So allow employees to form trade unions. Again, do you see how easy this is? I told you I'm going to make this easier. So the right of an employee is to join a trade union. Non-compliance is refusing them. How do we comply? We allow them to join trade unions. So as long as you remember a few key points, and if I were you, I'd make a little mind map of this because everything ties together and it's so much easier to remember it that way. Honor agreements, so never breach a collective bargaining agreement. Transparency, disclose relevant information to the trade unions, even if it is sensitive information, disclose it to the trade union. Fairness, follow the code of good practice to avoid the dismissal disputes. So if you're going to want to get rid of and dismiss an employee, make sure you're following the steps that I mentioned earlier. Support forums, establish workplace forums to enhance labor peace. Education, you need to display a summary of this act in the workplace, so like on the wall and somewhere visible so that everyone can see it. I'm just noting that this last bullet is mentioned for, if not all the acts, most of the acts, so it's a nice one to remember. For how to comply is they need to display the summary of the act on the wall. Then here's just a little tip from me to you. So this will be a question 5, should you get it in the March paper or in June and going forward. So we know that an essay is a 40-mark essay, 2 marks for introduction, 2 marks for conclusion, and then effectively it's going to be 28 marks for the middle piece. So it's 32 marks in total for your facts, and then 8 marks for your layout, synthesis, originality, and analysis. I do have a whole video deep diving into that. If you want me to do an updated video, please do let me know. All right, so introduction. It has to be in full sentences. I've mentioned this before and I'm mentioning it again. You have to write full sentences. So define the act. You will write, the Labor Relations Act regulates organizational rights of the trade unions, and so on and so on. Full sentences. Use headings when you're writing the purpose, the impact, ways to comply. Do not just list bullets. What it means by that is don't just have these short little words. You need to explain it in full sentences. You can use bullet points, but it needs to be full sentences that you're writing for these essays. Conclusion, high-level wrap-up. So here also full sentences. You can write, the Labor Relations Act requires agreement through sound labor relations, and so on and so forth. So here's just a nice little structure on how you can go about, just in brief, doing this for an essay. Then summary and review. So we've looked through the purpose, we've looked through the rights, we've looked through the impact, non-compliance, and how do we comply. So the purpose, again, it's industrial peace, collective bargaining, and CCMA. The rights, we look at the employer, they have the right to lock out. The employee, they've got the right to strike. The impact, positive, it creates structure. The negatives, cost and rigidity. Non-compliance, unfair dismissals, and blocking unions. How do we comply? We promote fairness and honoring agreements. The Labor Relations Act is not just a rule book. It is the foundation of a productive economy and a democratic workplace. Thank you so much for watching my video. The next video coming up will be employment equity, so make sure that you look out for that video, and I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye for now.